Hello, our friends, Evolutionary Energy Arts family.
Hi, welcome back.
So, guys, this is a very interesting video. I think it is.
Yeah.
These are great topics because, in my mind, and from everything we've gotten, this is about as blunt and as clear a reality as you're going to get.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it is. And it's, the way things are right now.
Again, recognize that society in general has been conditioned by the victors to have a view of the world that goes along with what the victors want to portray as the reality of the world. Can you guys follow that?
Well, yeah, they want things to be favorable to them so that we willingly do what they want.
Yes, give away our power,
Yes.
so to speak. And again, think about this again. Okay, the victors write the history. So all the history books, that we've been given, we know they're twisted. We know there's evidence of things like mud floods at a regular interval. We know there's, these cataclysms that come in at regular intervals again. We know that the mainline traditions that we have are given to us by the victors. If more than half the world is following one particular branch of line of thought as far as religion goes, then more than likely the traditional fundamentalist point of view is going to be that they want to give us.
Right, exactly. And to keeping that in mind, this is how we operate due to conditioning.
Yeah, and again, it's not that there's not truth in different scriptures. There is. There's a core truth, but everything has been glossed over, changed. It's been hiding. They hide things here and there. They make things disappear. As we've seen, they've done book burnings. There's a cyber book burning going on now. The Third Reich, they burned all the books. The Library of Alexandria was burned with so much ancient knowledge. Constantine and his church persecuted everybody that had any sort of knowledge that could give us a clue that, perhaps what they're telling us is not the actual history, not the actual truth. Here you see, this is in the DRC, this is in the Congo. You see villagers discovered a treasure mountain. The soil is 90% gold. The whole mountain is gold. It's like El Dorado, the land of gold. People are digging and just taking the soil back to their homes. The gold's going to be washed and then smelted into doré.
Right. And, this is very interesting. And I wonder how many more mountains there are like this out there.
Oh, there's probably quite a few. But I asked you your impressions on this. So what did you get from the guides on this?
Well, it's hard for me to articulate, but I'll do my very best. At first, they told me it was like an 80% type gold thing. And then they showed me that this was like Earth. There was so much gold on Earth, so much, that this was the first sifted pile of dirt. They took the most pure gold, and then they left this pile here to be sifted again. But for some reason, they just didn't get to it. And these people are now finding it. So I hope I explain that as best I can.
Except one thing. Who is they?
I don't know if I'm allowed to say Anunnaki.
Yeah, you could say the A word. That it's okay. We're going to get a little Wikipedia thing that pops up. Yeah, I think the A word's okay. So you got that this was basically put there by the Anunnaki to be returned to later, and somehow this never got processed.
Mm-hmm. Right. It didn't get processed. It didn't get finished for whatever reason, and now these lucky folks get to go through it.
Most definitely. And, there's a reason why gold and silver are valued. And again, silver has tremendous antibiotic, antiviral, antiparasitic properties. And Cindy and I have drank a ton of silver, and we're not blue. No. We're not blue, so that's kind of BS. Maybe there's one person in whatever number that might turn blue. But it works like a charm, and we've used both colloidal and nano. Gold is all about raising consciousness, connectivity in the brain, and so gold is invaluable for our consciousness in and of itself. And that's the real reason why these two things have always been kind of like the monetary standard, because they have intrinsic value. They are useful for things.
Right. Well, if you look at sunken treasures that are thousands of years old, the gold is still intact. So, I mean, it's used to also keep other things. I think in our body, it would help preserve our organs too.
Yeah, that's a good thought as well. And again, connectivity is key when it comes to chi, prana, vril, the life force, flowing through us. The life force is what animates us. So yeah, that there's definite value. I think, it's not just Sitchin. Now, there's people that will say, oh, the Anunnaki stories are all BS, because Sitchin, he was a nobody, or he was the Illuminati, or he was a 33rd degree Mason, which I've looked into, never found any evidence. There's like video of somebody that's supposed to be him and doesn't even look like him. So it feels like it's just a discrediting campaign. But the big thing is, even without Sitchin, it's still the same stories. It's the same stories that have been translated by thousands of other people now. It's the same story of a race of beings that come here to rape, rob, and pillage the natural resources of the planet, utilize the beings that were here as a slave race. And there we go. That's what you got. So this I found fascinating. And why? So if we look at our solar wind prediction, don't you think NASA takes this serious? Enlil. They're always naming things like Enlil and Enki and, and yeah, Apophis. It's kind of telling, don't you think?
It gets pretty darn obvious after a while.
Oh man, I keep going back to Mike Myers, who does number 2 serve? Well, who does NASA serve? They're telling you right there. That's who they're serving. And maybe not, he might have retired, which is what we've gotten, is that he's no longer in a top position, nor is his brother Enki. But when you look at the chain of command, sure, we got these guys, who have influenced every aspect of society, including religious and political. But basically, they are reporting to these guys, and this is a pretty good representation of, say, Enki and Enlil.
Yeah, that was very striking when I saw that. Somebody saw them like I see them, so that was good.
So you would say that is pretty dead on.
Oh yeah, that's really good.
Yeah. So this is what those guys look like. Sure, humanoid, but they are hybrid. And then there's all these beings in between these two levels. You got these little guys, which some of them are biological, other are androids, others are a combination. There is a reason why DNA is harvested, because it is utilized to create more beings to do jobs.
And these little buggers are all over the place. I didn't really realize it when my daughter was younger. She could see these beings, and they just sort of took the shape of like a floating mushroom, But she said they were very ornery, and they would do things on purpose to make people fight. And yeah, she saw them very clearly, and they were usually always around us, like maybe up in a tree, standing 50 feet away. But it's almost like they were always standing back watching chaos.
Well, we see them around a lot of people that we've worked with. And we've worked on hundreds, if not thousands, of people energetically, and these guys are as common as they come. And again, there's many different types of them. There are some completely organic ones that have just kind of lost their way for the most part, and there are ones that are synthetic and ones that are a combination of both. Above them are these guys, and I've had personal encounters. We've been assigned one of these, so to speak, that they keep an eye on us with, and more than one, because we got rid of one and then they assigned an upgraded one to watch us and harass us. And so often, most of the time, like when we've done lives and the sound goes out, one of these guys is near.
Oh yeah.
And so one time Cindy told me exactly where he was, right by the camper. I couldn't see him. I could see energy patterns easier when it's darker. Then everything's kind of revealed to me. But I couldn't see him in the broad daylight with blazing sun. But I did jump into where his energy field was and started drawing energy, and it made him recoil. And so, we can push back against these dark things. And then there are these things. Now, the Gnostic point of view is very, very close to reality with archons. And also, with they would view the ultimate power of evil as Yaldabaoth, or the demiurge. We feel from what we've gotten that there's two separate beings. There is a demiurge type of energy which can be used for good or evil, but there is also the ultimate source of darkness as well, which can emanate these guys. And I've also had these guys sent out to harass us.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, these guys are kind of interesting in the fact that they're made, they're kind of created like an archon. You have an archon, and then they actually take a piece of themselves and they make it its own consciousness and they send them out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I mean, we see in our traditions and in our stories, like we see the ring race, for instance, serving under Sauron. And so Tolkien was pretty inspired with that because it is very close to that.
Yeah, it is.
It is. That was definitely an inspired vision. So ultimately, these guys are in charge of those gray guys, and these guys are who these guys report to. So these guys, the Anunnaki that came here, like Enlil and Enki, ultimately they report to these guys, who ultimately report to the Archons, who ultimately report to something that we could view as a black dragon type of entity that's actually not even fully organic. It is actually AI, and it's a combination again of that organic with the AI.
Right. It is a merged situation where they do work together now. At one point, they were separate. I can't tell you when in history. I'm just shown that they were separate, but now they're merged.
So again, it's like everything is kind of, there's truth in there, but then things are twisted. It's something that takes a lot of sorting out in so many ways, but the best way really is through years of deep meditation and finding for yourself, going within, making contact with the higher realms. So ultimately, yeah, at the top there is a quote unquote dragon. This would be your great Satan, so to speak, your ultimate Satan. Although the Satan on this planet, controlling this planet, is this, but it does work for ultimately this. Through all the things that we have seen before, these are all different types of beings. And, since they are not really nice beings, they're not, benevolent beings, we could call them demonic. Sure, they're all kind of evil, definitely. They're pursuing their own thing, their own agenda. And, they're not, they don't care about the indigenous people. Very much like, again, looking at the movies, very much like Avatar. When humans come to this planet and the indigenous people are living in harmony with the planet, and they just start raping, robbing, and pillaging Anunnaki style.
Yes, they do, and they have no problems doing it.
And we've seen the symbolism of the great dragon, the serpent, and it's, like Cindy was saying, it is more along the lines of a Chinese dragon type of...
Yeah, it is. When I saw that, it's like, okay, these folks knew something.
They did, but there's not, doesn't mean again all dragons are evil. There are reptilian humanoid beings that are actually fairly benevolent too out there.
And what I understand, and I do believe this, is like dragons. We all can have our own dragon as a guide, so we don't throw the baby out with bathwater.
No, it's just this particular one, this kind of black goo infested entity that is, giving a lot of problems to many different planets and systems. So, when we look at, as we had said, the oldest copy of the Gospel of John is about 300 AD, all right? And actually, the oldest full copy we have of the entire Hebrew Torah is actually, I think it's 900 and something CE, as far as, full copies. When we look at the stories in the Bible and we see the flood story, then you see the stories from the Sumerian tablets, which we don't really know how old they are. You see here they're saying 20,000-year-old Sumerian tablets. Others say they're 4,000. They are definitely at least 4,000, most of them. which again, vastly predates and gives us a lot more information than what we get from the Bible, because the Bible is, again, it's Cliff Notes. The Bible is just, you read Genesis 6, there's one little blurb, and then you could find more in the pseudepigrapha. So, you really got to go deep and just not look at things superficial. The problem is, the vast majority of people out there haven't even read it cover to cover, haven't even studied it, and as I've said before, I've handwritten, hand copied in order to memorize. And that's how I've discovered a lot of inconsistencies and congruencies and things that just made me say, it made me go deeper and deeper and deeper. And so when we look at like Michael Tellinger, who has done so much research into the Anunnaki and all the legends, he's done great work. As you see this footprint, which it really does feel to be very, very legitimate, that's like a 4.5 foot long footprint, right? So if you got a 6 foot tall guy that maybe has a 12-inch footprint, just times it by 4 to 5 times, right? That's a pretty big individual, 25, 30 foot tall individual. But, we have these stories of giants, and we have them in the Bible in brief, and then we have them all around the world in detail as well. So there's so many stories of these giant beings everywhere. And we could see, from all the relics, Africa is one of the areas that was mostly, I guess it is one of the richest areas, and that's why they were down there going crazy, doing their mining thing way before Homo sapiens sapiens were here. So it's fascinating to see that there are old gold mines there that, according to the timeline, were not dug by Homo sapiens sapiens. Were they dug by Homo erectus? I don't think, most scientists will say, most anthropologists would say Homo erectus had the intelligence to go digging for gold.
Yeah. We just don't really know very much, really. That's the reality of it all.
And then we have Adam's calendar, which is also known as Enki's calendar. As we know, Adam, the legend of Adam and Eve, is again taken from Adama. It's taken from the older Sumerian stories, which are thousands and thousands of years older. And, again, you got to ask yourself, why do all the politicians put their hand on the Bible and swear themselves in? Whether it's Obama, whether it's Bush, whether it's Clinton, all the way on down the line. Shouldn't these guys just go up in a blaze of fire if this is the true, complete Word of God? The Bible was started. It goes back to the Council of Nicaea in 325 AD, when they didn't even agree on whether Christ was man or God man. These things were, debated in councils, and the early Christians, they didn't agree on it, and so meanwhile, what was accepted was basically agreed upon by the Holy Roman Emperor and his bishops. So you have to really go deep and look in other places and look for congruency across the globe. What does everybody say? What are they saying over in Africa? What are they saying over in India? What are they saying, over in Australia with the Aboriginals? How about the Americans? The original people of the Americas, which we don't even know who the original people of the Americas really, really were. When you get down to it, it's come in waves. And what do all the global mythologies say? Put it all together, look at the Sumerian stories, then you start to get a picture. Because, what they've given us is what they want us to believe. And there's a much bigger picture here that many have missed because of just conditioning. They can't get it out of their brain because it's been so beaten in and conditioned. And, me too, as a little kid, I was sitting by my bedside, kneeling by my bedside every night, going through our Our Fathers and Hail Marys and et cetera, being brought up Catholic. But I've been in at least 40 different denominations of churches, and I've joined them and taken part in them. Everything from Jews for Jesus to Lutheran to Episcopalian, Catholic, Baptist, Evangelical, Pentecostal, you name it. I've tried it, I've explored it, been inside it. That was actually in some of the ones I went to that were more evangelical and Pentecostal, laying on of hands. That's when I was really like getting intrigued by the life force when I was a teenager, because I could feel the electricity, and that was really clicking with me. And that got me, reading into and starting to study things like pranic healing and Qigong, and recognizing this is the same. What I feel when I go there and they're slaying people in the spirit. And, that's okay because it's quote unquote Christian. But yet the same people would look at it, and if we were doing energy healing with Qigong or Reiki, they would view that as demonic. That's just ignorance. That's nothing but pure ignorance, because you've only been brought up in one tradition. So when we start looking deeper, we start to recognize, wow, we have a tremendous amount of inherent potential and power within us, as far as consciousness and healing as well. And again, there's so much out there that shows us that our history is not what they've told us. And, there's all these vast old megalithic sites that scream of intelligence and advanced knowledge.
It really does. And, with me, as far as my journey is concerned, I really wanted to be just a good, Sunday school person. I wanted to go to Sunday school. I wanted to understand the Bible. I wanted to know all of these things. But when these other things like the Sumerian tablets and things of that nature were put in front of me, I was like, really? I mean, this is so obvious. And it was very difficult and very painful to pull myself away and separate the two, because they threaten us with, like a life in hell and eternal damnation if we dare think anything else. So it was really difficult to tear away from that. But once I did, oh my gosh, my life changed. And then I was free to explore my own abilities.
Exactly. And, we do have a personal relationship with Yeshua, as we commune with Yeshua every day, but Yeshua doesn't have a problem with us also having a personal relationship with Kuan Yin or Buddha or, any other benevolent being. That's just humans. That's just inferior human thinking that doesn't understand the bigger picture, because you've been conditioned. It's because you've been conditioned into a fear-based reality. And that's basically by the controllers. You could think, we could thank these guys for that.
Yes.
That's their teaching, which is, again, one of control. It's all about control, power, keeping people in the dark. And so when we look at Adam's calendar, it's estimated to be about 75,000 years old. That is really interesting, because we jump over to the law of one, and that's the beginning of this particular cycle, which comes in 3 pieces of 25,000 year intervals, which started 75,000 years ago, which coincides again to Adam's calendar, which is like the oldest of these, relics that we have, which some say is actually the burial site of an Anunnaki.
Mm-hmm. Right, and I believe that too.
Yeah, so it's fascinating. It's all about rising through the densities. And now we're going into a time period where we could rise above all those guys that we looked at and, be out of their reach, out of their control. So they don't want that. And as we've said, they would much rather lose whatever of the herd that's here and have those entities, reincarnate on another 3rd density planet somewhere else that's under their control, under their system. Doesn't really matter if you're on Earth or if you're on a different planet, as long as it's one of the ones that they control.
That's very, very important, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, do you want to go into more detail on that at all?
Not right now.
Okay, but that is the key. So if they could get us to constantly fight amongst each other, if they could get us to lower our vibrations and get angry and just want to do lower vibrational acts, they're winning. They're winning. And that's why Yeshua said, if somebody slaps you on one cheek, give the other. And then I know I saw a comment saying, what can pacifism achieve? Well, it's loving not your life even unto death. and you'll rise up and above, the fray. How many revolutions have there been on this planet that we know of that have led to nothing but another revolution later on because, you replace one dictator with another.
Yeah, like the war to end all wars.
Yeah, and then there's another one of those
Yep.
wars to end all wars, and then another one. So, the way out of this is to get out of this cycle and system because, don't miss the bigger picture here. The bigger picture is consciousness. The bigger picture is rising above. It's not replacing one leader with another leader. The whole system is corrupt. The whole way of this planet is one that's ultimately going to lead to the death of the planet unless we change our ways.
That's really important to really acknowledge that and absorb it.
Unless Mom gets mad and Mom washes it all away, as Tool says.
She might do that.
She really could. And so, there's even structures that are way older than Homo sapiens sapiens out there. Yeah, as we were saying, the history books, totally rewritten. How long have these guys been around? We don't really know, and who were we before the fall, quote unquote? Because the fall is one of vibration. It's consciousness.
It is, and I feel we were beautiful, more like a light being, like a not quite as dense as we are now. That's what I'm getting.
Most definitely. When I see Lemuria, I see fifth density.
Yes, me too.
Yeah, Lemuria was 5D. The fall started, at the edges of that time period. So if we view again in segments, of course, the Hindu system has yugas, and so the Satya, and of course we've been in the Kali, and we're coming out of the Kali, and we have the Dwapara, and there's also the Treta. So we go through these cycles. We could view them as different evolutions in consciousness. There's an ascendant path and a descendant path. When we went into that descendant path, we came in contact with these nasty beings that took advantage of the situation and helped it along, so to speak.
Yeah, they sure did.
Yeah. So, again, we have to look at the bigger picture, guys. Bigger picture. That's really like one of the prime reasons we are here because, the whole prison that has been created around the minds of humanity has to be destroyed.
Yeah, we do. We need to break out of it and understand who we are.
Yep. So, it makes perfect sense about these predator species that come and they go from one planet to another. We've seen all the mass die-offs. Does it seem like something an indigenous species would do? People that were actually here? No. Look at how the Native Americans lived and the Australian Aboriginals and the natives in Africa. They live in harmony. They live in harmony with nature. They were part of nature, part of the earth. They recognize that they're a cell in the body of Gaia, Mother Earth. And so they wouldn't do those type of things. It's just not part of it. And we see relics like you see over here. There's off-limit areas in the Grand Canyon you can't go to that people have seen giant bodies inside, pyramids and other sorts of Egyptian type of relics. You can't go in there. It's blocked off. They don't want you knowing the truth. They don't want you to. And where these deep underground military bases are, this is where the Anunnaki had places. This is underground fortresses, bastions, different places where they were. And as we've said, we remote viewed Nibiru. It's not even really a planet. It's more of a ship now because it's dead. These beings are nothing but a plague upon any land that they come on. They rape, pillage, destroy, and then move on to another. And the Earth's not the only one they're doing this to. They're doing this to countless planets.
Yeah, and it's a cyclical thing, and now we're coming out of that cycle, and Earth is like hanging on. She's breathing, she's trying to hang on, and as we move into the photon belt, the light, these darker energies are peeling off. So, it does seem that she is going to make it, but she needs all of our help. We need to heal ourselves first. That's so important so that we can heal the planet.
Yes. So, I would equate Nibiru to Darth Vader. You know how Darth Vader ends up becoming more machine than man? Well, that's exactly how Nibiru is. It's more of a machine. It's more of a ship now. And also, I would say, and I haven't asked Cindy, but to me, this is a planet that only becomes solid when you're in the lower astral. So that's why it might have some effects on us out there right now, but we are not really seeing it totally, because as we move up in vibration, we're going to move through that lower astral, which is, the home for so many of these nasty little things and nasty big things, on our way up past that. And so that's why, I don't view Sitchin as having it completely right with his view of it, being a third density planet that loops out and loops back in. I think they could just take it anywhere they want. It's a ship. They could park it anywhere. They could park it on the other side of the sun. And maybe we get glimpses of it from time to time, simply because we're rising up in vibration to where we're going to see it full bore. As I shared with you, my daughter, when she was 8, she had a nightmare, came to me, and she saw this. She saw a huge red planet out in the sky that was enormous, and it freaked her out.
Yes, I've had that dream where I saw it. It was like in the sky. It was right there for all to see.
And when we look at Mars, Mars was once, beautiful and loaded with life. And actually, a lot of people that were living on Mars are here on Earth now with us as well. They're a part of it. They're merged in. And, Mars was on its way to becoming a Nibiru. And that's exactly, still what they have planned for Earth.
Yep, it is.
Yeah, there's evidence of mining everywhere. And we've seen evidence all through Nevada in areas that were not mined in modern times. But then we've seen like all sorts of things that were inexplainable unless people were mining this area thousands and thousands of years ago.
Yeah, it's, really very confusing, convoluted, but the thing is we have to work on ourselves to help save Earth.
Exactly. So guys, make sure you are subscribed, have the bell clicked for all the notifications. Thanks for your support on Ko-Fi and Patreon, because we couldn't do it without you. Anybody that needs to set up a time for a session, it's evolutionaryenergyarts@gmail.com or EEARTS@protonmail.com. And we'll be glad to help you. And thank you also for your patience with that and the charts.
This is a little experimental. This is a weighted fork, and I want to know, I'm going to whack it. I want to know if people feel it. Okay, it's going to be silent.
This will be quiet, but it'll be sending out a vibration, so we'll see who's really sensitive.
Yes. Okay, I hope that helped. God bless and namaste.
God bless, guys. Namaste.